Chapter 6. An Accidental Friendship. As Mountain Cap stepped onto the campus of Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois, he felt like a fish out of water in a sea of preppy polo shirts and khaki pants. The air was thick with the scent of textbooks, cheap beer, and ambitions, and Mountain couldn't help but feel like he had stumbled into the middle of a cheesy coming-of-age movie. But as he settled into his dorm room in Boomer Hall, Mountain's hopes of finding a kindred spirit, ideally a backfill for Johnny Pulaski, were quickly dashed. His roommate, Todd, was about as exciting as watching paint dry on a particularly dull Sunday afternoon. Todd was the kind of guy who thought a wild night out involved staying up past 10 p.m. to study for a calculus exam, and he had all the charm of a wet golf sock. Todd was studying airline administration, and Mountain wondered why Todd didn't just strap one on and study to be a pilot instead. And then there was the matter of the beer. Mountain had brought a few cases with him from back home in Beanfield, hoping to kick back and relax after a long day of classes and golf practice. But Todd, with all the enthusiasm of a wet blanket, promptly informed him that alcohol was strictly forbidden in their dorm room, lest they run afoul of the dreaded resident assistant. So much for living the college dream, Mountain mused. And speaking of dreams, Mountain's aspirations of golfing glory were quickly fading into the distance like a mirage in the desert. His game was more erratic than a squirrel on a caffeine high, and try as he might, he could not seem to get his swing back under control. Coach Johnson, with his gruff demeanor and his passion for colorful language, didn't mince words when he told Mountain that he was squandering his talent faster than a kid with a dollar bill in a candy store. But perhaps the biggest thorn in Mountain's side was Austin Graff, the golden boy of the golf team and the newfound bane of Mountain's existence. Austin was like a walking, talking golfing textbook, his swing as smooth as butter and his demeanor as cool as a cucumber. He was the kind of guy who made Arnold Palmer look like a weekend hacker, and his perfection was enough to make even the most self-assured of men feel like total losers. He told everyone that his major was geography, so that he could best locate the greens. He also claimed that his minor was geology because he rocked, but his real field of study was golf. Austin was so meticulous that he only approved of crime that was organized. He rolled up his belts when he was not wearing them in order to avoid them becoming misshapen in the slightest bit. The young golf star went to Bible school in Tennessee before transferring to the hedonistic, by comparison SIU, this Carbondale. He began each day with prayers and military presses. Instead of coffee, Austin drank Red Bull mixed with creatine powder to fuel his many other daily routines. The only vice that he shared with the general public was his love of an assortment of cheeses. Their clashes were the stuff of legends, like a pair of heavyweight boxers duking it out in the ring. They argued about everything from golf strategy to the best brand of beer, and it seemed that there was no love lost between them. But despite their many differences, there was a growing and begrudging level of respect between them, a recognition of each other's talents and abilities that neither one could ignore. And so, as Mountain navigated the treacherous waters of college life, he found himself locked in a perpetual battle with his own demons and with the indomitable force of nature that was Austin Graff. But even as he struggled to find his place in this strange new world, Mountain knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be at, on the golf course, chasing his dreams one swing at a time, even if those dreams seemed as elusive as a leprechaun's pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. As the team bus barreled down the highway, the tension between Mountain Cap and Austin Graff crackled like lightning in a stormy sky, each passing mile adding fuel to the fiery friction between them. They had just emerged from the crucible of a major golf tournament, but instead of basking in victory, they found themselves mired in the muck of a brewing tempest. It began with a clash of egos, a collision of wills that sent sparks flying faster than a malfunctioning firework on the 4th of July. Mountain, never one to shy away from a spirited debate, squared off against Austin with all the ferocity of a wounded bear defending its territory. But even as words flew like arrows in battle, neither young man could have predicted the sudden eruption that followed. With a roar of frustration, Austin's normally unflappable facade crumbled like a sandcastle in a hurricane, his fist meeting Mountain's jaw with the force of a sledgehammer. The impact reverberated through the bus like a seismic shockwave, leaving everyone stunned in its wake. But amidst the chaos and confusion, Mountain felt something unexpected stir within him, a strange sense of clarity, as if the blow had knocked loose some hidden truth buried deep within his psyche. For as much as he hated to admit it, there was a part of him that almost welcomed the violence, like a weary traveler finally finding respite in the eye of a storm. Yet when Coach Johnson approached Mountain later that evening, offering him the chance to seek retribution against Austin for his aggression, Mountain found himself hesitating. He could have taken the easy way out, thrown Austin under the bus without a second thought. But something held him back, a twinge of conscience, perhaps, or maybe just a touch of stubborn pride. And so, instead of seeking vengeance, Mountain chose to extend an olive branch, burying the hatchet in the name of team unity. It was a decision that surprised even himself, but deep down, he somehow knew that it was the right thing to do. To his amazement, Austin's demeanor towards him shifted almost immediately. Gone was the icy reserve and thinly veiled contempt, replaced instead by a newfound sense of camaraderie and respect. It was as if Austin had finally seen Mountain for who he truly was, a fellow warrior on the battlefield of life, a kindred spirit forged in the struggles of competition. In the days and weeks that followed, Mountain and Austin found themselves drawn together like magnets, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They became inseparable, like two peas in a pod or a pair of mismatched golfing socks, always rubbing each other the wrong way, yet somehow perfectly suited to one another. And as they sat together at the bar one evening, nursing their beers and swapping stories like old war buddies, Mountain couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of it all. Who would have thought that a punch in the face could lead to such a profound change in their relationship? It was like something out of a cheesy rom-com, or maybe a Shakespearean tragedy, only with less kissing and more beer. As the night wore on and the beer flowed more freely, Mountain felt himself growing drowsy, his eyelids drooping like lead weights. And when he finally succumbed to sleep, his head lolling against the bar with a contented sigh, Austin didn't hesitate to finish off Mountain's pitcher of beer with a shit-eating grin. It was a small gesture, but to Mountain, it spoke volumes. It was the sign of a friendship forged in fire, a bond that could weather any storm, no matter how fierce. And as he drifted off into dreams of fairways and greens, Mountain knew that he had found a true friend in Austin Graff, his teammate, his mentor, and most importantly, his brother in arms. As Mountain's freshman year at Southern Illinois University came to a close, he found himself drawn back to the familiar embrace of Beanfield like a sailor returning to port after a long and treacherous voyage. The air was thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and the distant hum of lawnmowers, signaling the arrival of summer in his hometown. But as Mountain roamed the familiar streets and meandered through the well-trodden paths of shady pines, he couldn't shake the absence of one familiar face, Johnny Pulaski. There was no sign, no trace of his old childhood friend, and the silence hung heavy in the air, like a lingering echo of days gone by. Undeterred, Mountain threw himself into the rhythm of Beanfield life with the determination of a man on a mission. He spent his days golfing on the familiar fairways of Shady Pines, his swing honed to perfection through countless hours of practice. The click of the ball against the club, the rustle of leaves in the wind, it was a symphony of familiarity, a melody that spoke to the very core of his being. But Mountain wasn't content to simply golf for leisure. No, he had a knack for turning every round into a high-stakes game, a thrilling gamble that kept the blood pumping and the adrenaline flowing. The local golfers, their faces weathered by years of life, sun, boozy drinks, and wind, soon learned that crossing clubs with Mountain Cap meant risking not just their strokes, but their pride and hard-earned cash. Being a caddy remained a source of income for Mountain, as he navigated the undulating greens and pristine fairways with the skill of a seasoned mariner steering through stormy seas. The crisp rustle of dollar bills changing hands became his personal soundtrack, a melody of opportunity that played out on the canvas that was Shady Pines. In the quiet hours of the evening, Mountain retreated to the familiar confines of the basement in the house where he grew up. The air down there had a musty scent, tinged with memories of adolescence and the faint traces of a life left behind. It was a sanctuary of sorts, a place where he could retreat from the world and focus on the things that truly mattered to him. His childhood bedroom was now occupied by his parents' new dog Ginger, who his parents adopted in Mountain's stead. They spoiled the dog endlessly, just like they did Mountain's little sister. Mountain didn't care about this, though, as he too eventually grew to love Ginger, the spoiled dog, even if she did refuse to walk on shiny floors like the one in the basement he currently occupied. So, with the hum of the old computer and the glow of the monitor casting a soft light, Mountain delved into his spreadsheets with the zeal of an alchemist seeking the secrets of the universe. He meticulously recorded data on every college golfer that he had encountered, tracking everything from the gentle breeze's effect on a putt to the correlation between a player's mood and their backswing. It was a labor of love, a dance with numbers that held the key to unlocking the secret gems of the game. But there was a new addition to his spreadsheet empire, Austin Graph. Mountain couldn't resist the urge to add another column, then a full page, and even pivot tables documenting every nuance of Austin's game. It was a record of both competition and camaraderie, a testament to the unlikely bond that had formed between them. As the days melted into weeks, and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Shady Pines, Mountain felt a sense of accomplishment. He had returned to his roots, rekindled his love for the game, earned some money for college, and added yet another chapter to the saga that was his golfing journey. The echoes of Johnny Pulaski's absence still lingered, but in the warm embrace of Beanfield, Mountain Cap found peace. But this peace was not to last.